non-duality. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are many so-called teachers who say it's a privilege to have a human body and a human existence. Okay.
Really?
So, yes. So, from what you say, it would be a privilege to be a cow, or so
a dog.
what's the rub?
Or a dog. I don't understand that at all. I don't understand the idea of privilege. Well, I mean, who is it a privilege to? It's just another personal idea in a train called my story. It is a privilege to be in the human body. The other thing that amazes me is there's some guy that also taught his famous, and he says that stones don't have the level of consciousness that human beings have. I don't think I've ever had anything more arrogant and ridiculous than that. The whole idea that somehow a stone or a cow even is at a lower level of consciousness than a human being is the ultimate arrogance of the self. All there is wholeness. All there is this. And in this there are stones and there's marmalade and sky and human body. It's all simply one thing. So somehow a privilege is something better, you know. I am privileged to be human. You're very privileged to be with me in this place. Fuck off. It's hierarchy, isn't it?
And I have to use time in this body.
You have to use time. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Time is another thing that's real and unreal. You don't have to have time to be this. So this doesn't need anything. This just is what it is. It doesn't need anything at all to be what it is. Why would this need time? It's only this thing that thinks it needs things.
It's very common.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, you know, the whole me story is based on hierarchy, sort of levels, higher levels and lower levels. It's entertaining, but it's absolute nonsense.
It makes stress somehow.
It makes
stress.
Strength.
Stress. Fear.
Stress.
Fear.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm higher than you are, or I'm lower than you are.
Can you say something about this collapse from an evolutionary point of view?
Thank you.
Could you say something about this collapse of the me from an evolutionary point of view?
Oh, yes, very clearly. There is no such thing as evolution. Evolution is another appearance, like progress or things evolving or changing, is simply no thing appearing to be something that changes or evolves. It's not real and it's not unreal, it's just another appearance. And evolution has absolutely no significance of any kind.
Can the appearance change?
Only apparently. Things appear to change, they're just wholeness playing the game of appearing to change and appearing to evolve. It's a game. It's a game of light which has no meaning of any kind. So,
yeah. So this question goes a bit in the same sense, because often you say in your introductory speech that at an early age the child is open and there's only being, and then the energy kind of like
that's a story.
Contracts.
Yeah. It's a story.
So, but then the question is then, what is the relation between this apparent person at baby age and at the adult age, and then in the end?
No.
Is it the same person? Baby and the adult?
There isn't a person. There is only wholeness, and within wholeness, wholeness appears as a baby and then as an adult. The whole thing is just an appearance.
But then you say, and then, but then means time.
That's a story, yeah. And then, you know, the prince met the princess, or the princess kissed the frog. You know, it's a story. It has no meaning. Well, what we're doing here is talking from a natural reality to a separate reality, or an artificial reality, which only understands stories, because it is a story. So the isness is talking to something that lives in a story, about something that's beyond the story. Within the story, there's something that's being suggested that's beyond the story, another possibility. But there's no story, no individual. All it is this, and this is the infinite, timeless being. And that's what that thing in the story that thinks it's a real person going around in a train thinks it is looking for or trying to find. What's being suggested here is that that energy of going around in a train looking for that which is timeless is completely and utterly futile. But what the story illuminates, what the story of the baby becoming separate and contracted energy illuminates, is the way in which that artificial energy or construct seems to be real. And for the individual, their lives and the idea of free will and going around in a train looking for something seems to them to be real. All that's doing is illuminating something.
So the story of the energy contracting into something that's
It's
the story means it's just for comparison.
It's just a parable. It's meaningless. It's pointing to something beyond itself.
It's not how it really is.
There isn't anything that's really how it really is. There is nothing that is real. That's amazing. And that's the difference between that which lives in its own real, separate reality. The individual lives in an artificially real, but it feels that it's real. So it lives in something that seems to be absolutely real. And that's why it can't comprehend what we're talking about here, because this is unreal. It just can't comprehend anything unreal. It'll talk about it, it'll give the unreal lip service. It'll say, oh yes, there is a God, or there is being, or there is wholeness, or there is that which is unreal. But it can't possibly know the unreal, because it only exists in the real. It can only have life, or it can only have an apparent life or function in the real only. When the real falls apart, there's nothing left. It dies. It only exists in a real story. The story is the me, and me is the story, and it seems real. And what we're talking about here is the possibility of that collapsing. But in describing it, like in the story, it's a way of explaining or trying to illuminate how that reality forms, that artificial reality takes form.
Tony, if we say Tony books a flight or Claire books a flight?
No, there isn't anybody.
You would have to say
there is no Claire and no
yes,
Tony. There's just a flight that apparently seems to be.
We would have to say there's nobody to book a flight. And
it's what happens.
Booking a flight happens,
yeah.
But in a deeper sense we have to say also booking a flight does not really happen.
Well, it's like everything else, everything is only real and unreal.
So if we use words actually you maintain the illusion, is that right?
Yeah. All words are dualistic.
So silent, you also talk, so...
I don't, but talking happens, I've noticed.
And also talking doesn't happen.
Yeah. But what I did explain at the beginning, what we can do is talk about this together, but what it points to is beyond words.
It's the silence. And can
no, it's not the silence. Sorry. It's not silence. We're not pointing to silence. Silence is a state that comes and goes. Stillness is a state that comes and goes within the whole. What we're pointing to is beyond knowing. Silence can be known.
Eternal silence.
Well, if you the eternal silence.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, it's unknown. It's at the unknown.
The beloved, what do you call it?
You like a word.
If you had to grow up a child now.
Sorry?
If you had to grow up a child, a baby.
Oh, too.
How would you grow it up?
No way.
You have to give it a name.
But that wouldn't be any different. But a child in the story grows up and becomes a person. That is the apparent story. There's nothing anybody can do about that.
So
there's nothing that needs to be done. Let's be clear about this. Separation and the individual is the absolute expression of wholeness. There's nothing wrong with it.
So you just get it to live it again.
Sorry?
You get the feeling of separation just to get rid of it.
Well, that's a story, yes.
So you couldn't grow up a child without giving a name or...
Well, no, there isn't anybody that can do anything.
Also, you couldn't do it.
Sorry?
You too couldn't.
Nobody has a choice. There is no choice at any level. All there is this. This is the infinite and doesn't need to choose anything. If it needed to choose something, then it would be in time choosing something. There is no choice.
And can you also say something about thinking and thoughts?
Well, they're just things that seem to happen.
Conceptual.
Well, they are real and unreal, like
everything
like
else.
The floor and walls and the sky. Thoughts and emotions are things that seem to happen.
So we run through the process of separation.
Only apparently.
Apparently get rid of it again.
Only apparently, yeah. But you're telling me a story. There isn't one. And getting rid of separation doesn't happen because this is not happening. This is no thing apparently happening. And it's not funny. Was somebody there?
If I understood you properly, and what keeps you, you said that fear keeps us separated.
Well, out of separation arises fear.
Out of separation arises fear. So there is no fear when you are in this state of order.
Oh, when there is nothing left, there is only everything. And when there's only everything, or in everything, sorry, there is fear. Apparently. But it's not real. It's real and unreal.
No, because I feel like this fear is like the last barrier.
Oh, really? No, the last barrier is you. You know, if you want to say that there's a barrier, the barrier is the separate me. When that collapses, everything collapses with it. All that's left, when I say all that's left, all that's left is everything, and that's a lot. And in everything, anything arises. Fear.
Yeah, but this fear of this unknown state is what keeps you separated.
Well, out of no thing arises the apparent energy of separation, which seems to the individual to be a continuous happening, but there is no continuous happening because there is nothing happening. The individual lives on a train in time and feels fear and pleasure and all those different things. They're just a set of a run of experiences, and that comes out of no thing. That comes out of the infinite. That is the timeless pretending to be in time and pretending to be a series of experiences.
I would like to go back again to somewhere what we were speaking about. My question was about the concept of this word soul, or even individual soul. I suppose you would say it's a concept, and the soul.
Oh yeah, it's a Christian teaching.
Christian teaching again. So
Oh,
it doesn't
pure
exist.
dualism.
Oh, dualism.
Oh, of course,
dualism.
yeah. It implies that there is somebody with a soul.
Yes.
Or there is a soul in the body or whatever. When I was a Christian, I was told that I had a soul, somewhere in here. It was a sort of big round red thing.
Yes.
And that if I behaved myself, my soul would become purified. I did try that for quite a few hours, It was in early November in 1957. But that whole basis is the idea that there is something called a soul, which is somehow related to something else called God, who sits on a big throne with a beard, and he has an account, Tony Parsons, -16. It's dualism, pure dualism.
And so there is no one there. There is nothing.
No one.
There is nothing.
There's no one, not here, there's no one.
As apparently this has died, there is nothing.
Well, the illusion of there being someone collapsed.
It has collapsed. And if that didn't collapse, but it dies physical death, again, I ask again, after physical death, this so-called apparent person who didn't collapse in the so-called dream world, but now physical body disintegrates. Nothing is being watched, witnessed, no consciousness, no nothing, nothing, blackout. But now there is not a blackout. There is seeing.
This is blackout.
Is this blackout? But how?
No, there's just this. This is all there is. There's just this.
But there is this talking out of nothingness.
Of course, yeah. There's what's happening, which is also this. It's timeless. It's the infinite. All there is the infinite, appearing to be something happening, and for the individual, it seems to be happening in time, and it's real.
We can't.
It's impossible. It's not difficult. It's just impossible.
It's impossible it's impossible to understand or to explain, or you mean?
And to explain as well.
But is there a knowing there?
No.
Knowing? No. Excuse me.
That's the whole thing that's impossible to. If there was a no, I could write it out for you and give it to you. It could be in the newspapers next week. There is no one. But it's impossible. It's utterly impossible. I can't give it to you. It isn't mine to give to you. There isn't anyone that can give it to you because it isn't a thing that can be given or understood.
So all the mediums, even if they're very good seemingly, who are giving from the beyond messages from the so-called dead, it's all fairy tales, fairy tales, fairy tales.
It's all very bullshit. It's just...
But for many people it's consoling.
Yes, that's true. There are lots of things that are consoling.
Yes.
People, I've noticed.
Okay. Yes.
Hot
but
chocolate
this is
at night. Having a soul.
From the Christian point of view, it would be actually cheating people or misleading people or being a fraud to them in a sense. Or
being
a fraud.
What is? I'm sorry, I'm not with you.
How do you say?
What is being
fraud?
What's being?
Karma or something like when you tell the people something which is not existing, something. Go on, just let it go. Thank you.
I just want to go back to that thing about fear, because I feel there's a sort of hook there. Really, basically, when there's an individual, the fear feels real, it is real. When that individual illusion collapses, everything is seen for what it really is. So fear is obviously an appearance of wholeness. There is fear, but it's not real anymore, it's real and unreal.
Because
everything is seen through.
The first time I was here with you, like 3 or 4 days afterwards, I had this experience of, how to say, of wholeness, but I was so afraid, but I was even shaking, so
yeah, it's fine.
So therefore,
you rushed back in and
yes.
re-established your seat on the throne.
Yes.
No, really, that's what happened. Yeah. It's absolutely appropriate that happened.
But therefore the question of the fear, how to overcome this fear.
Oh no, you can't overcome it. Even the fear in the normal, story of life, there isn't anything that can overcome it. It's what's happening. But certainly when there's an opening to this, there can be a great fear that arises in me, because me recognizes it